The ancient Semitic people, like many cultures before them, perceived the world as inhabited by a multitude of gods and goddesses. These divine beings were not simply mythical figures, but active forces shaping the natural world and human destiny. At the head of this pantheon stood El, the father god, often depicted as wise and remote. Alongside him was Asherah, his consort, revered as the mother goddess and associated with fertility and creation. However, the Semitic pantheon was not static. New deities emerged, reflecting evolving cultural beliefs and societal shifts. Among these rising gods, Baal, the storm god, would capture the imagination and devotion of the people, signaling a change in the divine order. This shift in worship, from the more distant El to the dynamic Baal, mirrored a transition in society. As the Semitic people transitioned from nomadic life to settled agriculture, they sought deities who could directly influence their harvests and prosperity. Baal, with his dominion over storms and rain, embodied these essential elements, becoming a central figure in their rituals and beliefs. The ancient Semitic world was a tapestry woven with the threads of myth, ritual, and lived experience, where the divine and the human were intricately intertwined. Their stories, passed down through generations, reveal a complex understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it. El, often referred to as Elohim, held a prominent place in the ancient Semitic pantheon. He was regarded as the creator deity, the father of gods and humans, embodying wisdom and authority. His consort Asherah was equally venerated. She was the mother goddess, representing fertility, creation, and the life-giving forces of nature. Together, El and Asherah symbolized the balance and order of the cosmos. Their union was believed to ensure the continuation of life and the prosperity of the people. However, the rise of Baal, the storm god, marked a shift in the divine hierarchy. Baal, with his power over rain, thunder, and lightning, was seen as a more immediate and tangible force in the lives of the agricultural communities. He brought the life-giving rains, ensuring bountiful harvests, but he could also unleash his fury in destructive storms. This duality made him both revered and feared. Worship of Baal became widespread, incorporating elaborate rituals and festivals to appease him and secure his blessings. The shift from El to Baal did not entirely diminish the former's importance. However, it reflected a cultural transition where gods directly impacting daily life, like Baal, with his control over weather and agriculture, gained prominence. Baal, the storm god, was a central figure in the ancient Semitic pantheon. He was the god of rain, thunder, and lightning, embodying the raw power and unpredictable nature of the elements. He was often depicted as a virile young man wielding a lightning bolt and battling the forces of chaos. His mythology is replete with tales of his strength, his conflicts, and his triumphs over adversaries. One of the most enduring myths surrounding Baal is the story of his death and resurrection. In this epic narrative, Baal faces Mot, the god of death and the underworld. Despite his might, Baal succumbs to Mot's power and descends into the underworld. This death of the god who controlled rain and storms symbolized the barrenness and desolation of the land during the dry season. However, Baal's story does not end in the underworld. Aided by his sister Anat, a fierce goddess of war and love, Baal is resurrected, returning to life and restoring fertility to the land. This cycle of death and rebirth resonated deeply with the agricultural communities, mirroring the cyclical patterns of nature itself. The myth of Baal's resurrection offered hope and reassurance that even in the face of death and adversity, life would ultimately prevail. Section 4. Fertility, rain, and the echoes of Dumuzi and Baal. Baal's association with fertility and rain extended beyond his dominion over the weather. He was seen as a life-giver, his presence essential for the abundance of crops and the prosperity of the people. This aspect of Baal's persona drew parallels with other ancient Near Eastern deities, particularly Dumuzi, the Sumerian god of vegetation and flocks. Like Baal, Dumuzi's death and resurrection were central to his mythology. He too represented the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, embodying the hopes and anxieties of an agrarian society. The similarities between Baal and Dumuzi highlight the shared cultural and religious ideas that permeated the ancient Near East. The concept of a dying and rising god, prevalent in many ancient cultures, spoke to a deep-seated human longing for renewal, for the triumph of life over death. Baal, with his power over the life-giving rain, embodied this hope, becoming a focal point for rituals and beliefs surrounding fertility, abundance, and the cyclical rhythms of nature. These ancient myths, while rooted in their specific cultural context, resonate with universal human experiences, reminding us of the enduring power of storytelling and the human search for meaning in the face of life's mysteries. Section 5. Jerusalem, a city of many gods, from Shalim to Baal. Jerusalem, a city steeped in history and religious significance, has been a place of diverse faiths and worship for millennia. Long before its association with Judaism and Christianity, Jerusalem was a Canaanite city, home to a pantheon of gods and goddesses. Among these early deities were Shalim and Shahar, twin deities representing dusk and dawn, peace and prosperity. Temples dedicated to these gods stood within the city walls, attesting to their importance in the lives of the early inhabitants. As Jerusalem grew in prominence, so too did its religious landscape. The worship of Baal, with his dominion over rain and fertility, also found a place in the city. Temples were erected in his honor, and his cult became intertwined with the political and social fabric of Jerusalem. The presence of multiple deities within the city reflected a common practice in the ancient world, where cities often embraced a diverse array of gods and goddesses. This religious pluralism did not necessarily imply conflict or competition. Instead, it suggests a more fluid and inclusive approach to religious belief, where different deities could coexist and even be venerated alongside one another. Jerusalem's early religious history, marked by the worship of Shalim, Shahar, Baal, and others, lays the foundation for its later role as a holy city, a place where monotheistic faiths would eventually converge and reshape the spiritual landscape.